Hello, my little tigresses. I want to introduce you to the tigress of life, my very dear friend for how many years? Almost 15, maybe? Right?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Shanti Zimmerman, because we want to talk about what does it mean to be Shanti? Not necessarily you, but being Shanti, being peaceful, being slow down, easy tigress, being in your power. Shanti, please introduce yourself a little bit.
I already told you, so I don't have anything to say other than I'm one of Helena's best friends. We've known each other for a really long time. I'm just a person like everybody else. Nothing. I have nothing to give you that would even begin to describe who and what I am and what my life is about. So that's what I give.
Well, then I will say that your life is about being honest,
Yes.
super personal responsibility, high levels of integrity. And when you screw up, you admit it. When you want to have peace with your body, you grow your body hair just to love it and do
Yes.
extreme things to increase your connection to yourself that most people would never dare to do.
I don't know about that, but okay, I'll believe you.
Okay, Shanti. So as a coach, you've been coaching on personal responsibility and things like this for many years. How have you noticed that things are changing as we enter our tigress time, 40s and above, and we start seeing the shift in hormones? What have you noticed personally and professionally as well?
I often say if you, as a woman, you haven't been radicalized before perimenopause and menopause, you will be radicalized. If you allow yourself to be, you'll be radicalized with the knowledge that like the world is not made for us. And the way the world operates isn't in favor of the way women operate at all. And then you have to forge your own path. And more than ever at this age, more than you've ever had to think about, what do I want? What do I like? What matters to me? What are my values? It's going to come on hot and heavy. If you allow it, it will transform you. And if you don't allow it, well, have fun with that.
Will there be any fun if you don't allow it?
I don't know.
There will be a lot of misery.
But I'm like, I mean, that's an option, because
Always,
that's what
yes.
you get to choose. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you talk about you have to be radicalized, this will happen. If you haven't been radicalized, you will be. What is radicalization?
For me, it's a personal liberation when I'm talking about being radicalized. I cannot radicalize the world. I cannot change systems, but I can change myself and I can change my relationship to the way the world operates. And not just that, but my opinions about myself shift dramatically from like, oh, I'm a problem, I need to be fixed, to like, I am not the problem. I do not need to be fixed.
But wait, you have to take personal responsibility. You are the problem. If you say you're not the problem, you're not responsible.
No, I'm not responsible for the way the world operates or the systems that try to tell me I'm a this and I'm a that. I'm not responsible for that. I'm responsible for how I relate to myself and how I relate to other people. Even how I relate to the system is within my choosing.
Yeah. And it talks.
A lot of people think, oh, you need to be responsible. So people fail at responsibility. And I don't use the word failure I want to be really careful with the words because people attach a lot of things to that. You get really confused around responsibility when you think you have to take responsibility for everything, the systems and the way the other people are and their behaviors. So there's people that abdicate responsibility in that direction. They take on everything and then they burn out. And there's people that abdicate responsibility by literally not taking responsibility for anything. And that's also a hellhole. But I mean, you get to choose.
But it sounds very politically correct, right? You can totally sound like somebody did it to me and it's fact. This happened and I lost this. And
I can't do anything. I cannot control what somebody else does. I don't get to choose that. I choose how I relate to it. And I choose how, when that happens, how I relate to myself. I can't choose what somebody else does. I can't, just because I'm in personal responsibility doesn't mean the shit doesn't hit the fan and life stops being life. That's really strange.
Yeah. But this is how many women operate. So if you were to help somebody, if a woman is now at that special time and she knows things are not going the way they used to go, I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. I need to take responsibility, adult, radicalize myself, but I have no idea where to start. I don't even know how to do it. I don't even know if I want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
What would you suggest?
Well, in that idea, I don't know what I want. I don't know. Well, you have to choose something. And if you choose nothing, that's also a choice. If you choose, I'm going to put blinders on, I'm going to treat my symptoms based upon whatever I read on the internet or the doctors that I'm going to say, I'm just going to go through this as if it's symptomatic, instead of the greatest opportunity of my life to know who I am. And you can choose. And I personally am not judging anybody for whatever they choose. If you choose to just go straight forward, I have a neighbor, she's a lawyer, and she has 10 people below her, they're all men. And I met her in the thing and I said, are you okay? No, I'm having this perimenopause. And we talked about it. And she talked about how she can't show any signs of it in the office, that she has to maintain some level of, she has to pretend.
Professionalism.
And yeah. And she can't appear to be weak or slowing down, or even though she's like 15 years older than all these, these men. And we talked for like an hour. I'm like, oh, cool. She's like, great. I'm so glad we talked about that. Now I can just go on with my life. It's like, okay, good. Yeah, go. High five. Like she was just, okay, I've talked about it. Now it's done. And I'm like, cool. That is not what I would choose for myself.
Well, that's a really good point to show how much connection is valued.
Yeah.
Even if you do nothing, but you had a moment with Shanti, moment with yourself, talking openly.
We're just talking about stuff that nobody's talking about.
Exactly. First time, maybe in months, if not in if ever, she's opened herself up. Yeah. Yeah. So okay. So somebody wants to be radicalized and is willing to take steps.
I don't know that you want to be radicalized. I'm not sure that that's what happens. You just are. There's not like a want. It's, am I willing to look at this directly? Am I willing to be honest with myself directly about what's happening in my body? See, the thing that we've been taught as women is that we don't have any choice. First, we don't have any choice legally. White men somewhere get to decide what we do with our bodies constantly. Second, there's this whole idea that like this, I'm not my body, or this my period's coming and my cycle, and I'm just along for the ride. Like my body's just doing what my body's doing, and I don't have a relationship to that. I'm not taking full like ownership and responsibility for what my body is doing. But like I'm not my body, or I don't have like agency and choice, not necessarily maybe about the symptoms, but about being aware.
Yeah.
Being in relationship, knowing what my symptoms mean in my body, instead of outsourcing that.
Yeah.
To
I remember
a doctor or someone else.
Yeah, when I moved to Hawaii first time and my first period, I fainted in a public restroom.
Yeah.
And somebody found me. I had a Razor flip phone. They didn't have a secret code. I had only one number in my phone. They called the number. It was my ex-husband. He picked me up, took me home, and left me there until like 11 p.m. And I remember having a relationship with my body. I said, body, we cannot do this. I used to faint first day of period, maybe a couple of times a year, maybe every third month or something. And I said to my body, I cannot faint anymore. This is not safe anymore. What do you need from me to give me that we don't faint anymore? And my body was so clear, take a day off. Do nothing, go nowhere. And I'm like, but what if I already have, you have plans and then period comes. And my body said, you ask me, I tell you. It was so clear. And I was 29. My body was so clear. It was beautiful to see that relationship.
And that you can have that relationship with your body every day of the month. Not just there. But that's big. That's the radicalizedness, right? Radicalized is, I now know something that somebody didn't tell me, or tried to keep from me, stole from me, didn't even consciously keep from me, but just like I now have a whole lot more access to information I did not have before. And it's information I know from the inside of me would be valuable for everyone, men as well.
Yeah.
I am educating my husband. I am educating my children as I walk through this
Without
process.
sounding like a teacher and preacher,
No,
but like
no,
a partner flowing with it.
yeah.
So
Like,
yeah.
this is what's happening for me. This is what I need from you. Can you do that? Right? I'm slowing down. I'm not doing these things anymore.
Easy
Somebody else
digress.
can take those on,
Yeah.
you know, and that was the process. It took at least 18 months to go from mom does everything to everybody pitches in.
Yeah. So why did you decide? How did you realize I cannot be the mom who does everything?
When I realized, we don't talk about menopause. I don't remember ever having a conversation about menopause. I noticed the day I started having perimenopausal symptoms, I'm really in tune with my body, but I didn't have any, there was no instructions, there was no conversations, there was no culture around this time of my life. And I don't know what I thought menopause was gonna be like. I was gonna be like 60 and I was gonna go live in the woods or some shit by myself. Not, I would be actively parenting at the same time
Four
that my body,
children.
yeah, that my body was going to be going through what it goes through at this, this normal, this is a very normal functioning body that does this. There's nothing wrong with my body that's happening. And I got really tired and I could feel I couldn't pull energy from the same place. And if I tried, it would just be like, not going to happen. I could go insane if I do that. I could feel it. If I continue to push, and I have an insane amount of energy, but if I continue to push like that, I'm not going to make it. I won't make it through this. And so then I was like, well, I have to take things off my plate. I didn't work for the first year of my perimenopause. Sorry, I'm just making sure that I don't have kids. Okay, good. Kids were like, help, I'm stranded somewhere. So
Sorry, deal with that.
I'm busy. I have perimenopause.
Radicalized.
So, and that was radical. When I went to my children, 3 of whom are adults, but still live here and are in school and all of that. And I said, I need your help and you need to do these things. And it's not, you don't help because you're being punished. You don't help because I'm the boss. You help because I need your help. And that shift was really difficult for everyone, including me. And all those ideas of like, who am I even? If I don't provide all those things for all those people, if I don't work for my clients, if I don't mom the thing, where's my value as a woman? And then it's like, what the fuck? Why am I even questioning this? This is utter fucking bullshit. There's the radicalization. Why does my husband not know how to be with me during my period? Why does my husband not know how to be with me during menopause? It's not his fault. But there's a problem that he doesn't know how to do this, that he doesn't know, there's joking things, there was something happening. Forget what it was. He was complaining about something. I'm like, yeah, I understand. And I'm like, I'm about to bleed out of a hole in my body for like a whole week. You can't top that. And we joke about it, right? Like, I'm not devaluing his thing, but I'm like, yeah, that whatever that thing is, I feel you, but it's not even close. And he's okay, yeah, you're right. Just because sometimes you just start teasing each other, but that I can stand in that and be like, I know what a fantastic thing that's happening. Women bleed from an open wound in their body every month and live through it every month. And that in itself is awe-inducing when you really, 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 really think about it. Because we've been taught, put a tampon in it and keep going.
Yes.
Instead of like what your body
all the
said,
activities.
yeah, your body said, stop.
Mm-hmm.
Just stop. Just stop. I'm asking
And
you
when
to
I
stop.
didn't stop, my body fainted. You don't want to stop? I will.
Yeah, exactly. You want to keep going at that level, you're not going to be able to do the things. You're not going to make it. I could feel it. I'm like, I'm either going to physically get sick, I'm going to get some kind of psychosis. And so it was just like, okay, I have to drop all these things. I have to take them off my plate and I have to go through the discomfort of that choice. Because it's not like, oh, I made that choice. It was so great. No, no, because you have to walk as I take these things off my plate, as I rearrange things into a much more healthy dynamic. I have to face all the indoctrinations and conditioning about what it means to be a woman.
Yeah.
And any trauma I might have not known about or worked through will come up in this time period.
Yes.
So what happened every time the hormone garden changes.
Mm.
And as it's changing, you're going to get all that stuff that comes up. And you can ignore it. You can make the choice. I don't want to deal with this. I'm not going to look at this. I'm just going to go through it.
Yeah. Or you can look at it and grow with it. It
Yep.
doesn't mean that those women who don't want to look at it, they are doing it wrong.
No.
If you don't have calories to deal with that, pop the
Mhm.
pill and move on.
Right.
Right? But I want to work with it. You want to work with it. People who are probably watching too.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I talk in my book about a circus tigress,
Mhm.
the one who has been jumping through hoops for everyone,
Yeah.
for children, for work, for husband, for in-laws, for everyone. And there comes the time that she's like, no, the little applause from the audience is not worth it. And
Mhm.
after all, the door of my circus tent are open. I want to be with one paw in the jungle, at
Mhm.
least one paw. I want to go.
All of it. Yeah.
I want to go be wild. I want to go be my true self. And then women ask themselves, but I don't even know who I am because I've been
Good.
playing in the circus the whole time.
Well, then this is where you find out. That's again what I mean by being radicalized. If you turn towards yourself during this period of time, yourself is not somewhere. It's not out there. It's not in the mouth of someone else. Yourself is here. And so if you don't know who that is, here's the perfect time to get to know who she is.
Yeah.
Even if you've never forehead to forward, face to face with her, she's right here and she's never gone. Just like while you were jumping through all those hoops and being the circus inside of you, that jungle tiger has always been there. Every moment of every minute of your life.
Waiting peacefully. Every once in a while giving you a nudge. Ooh, the wild beef walking by, go jump, or something, giving you some nudge if you want to take it or not.
Right.
Yeah. What are some of the most unusual, or we should say craziest things you have noticed that women experience in this time? Or what was it for you?
Are you talking about symptoms or the way society reacts?
No, about you, your experience. Like for me, I've been vegetarian my
Yeah.
entire life.
Yeah.
For 32 years, I was vegetarian from age of 16. And then at one moment, I'm like, I need protein. I need something. But
Yeah.
my mind could not even fathom of touching an egg. What do you think about eating it?
Yeah.
Right? And then slowly, as I started chickpea and quinoa and kale didn't help, I started eating eggs, I started eating fish, and now I'm full on carnivore. My own husband is looking at me, globbing the bone. He's like, I can't believe this is you. I was like, me neither. I'm really a tigress. So I think this is something I would never believe. If somebody told me at your estro shifting time, you will shift, I would never believe them.
Yeah. I think there's many, many, many things like this.
Yeah.
Mine for me is that a ton of my physical ailments, I've been chronically ill for a good portion of my adult life, are leaving.
Oh, wow. As you got healed.
I think when you get into a relationship with your body where you no longer feel like it's an enemy, you have to fight it. It's fighting you. This is wrong. Whatever I have is bad. I need to fix it. I got to go get this therapy and that therapy. And when this started, I'm like, fuck that shit. I'm done. I'm done with any of that. I'm done being upset about being sick. I'm done trying to get like, my husband came to me one month. He's like, can we sit down for a second? I want to show you what you've spent on supplements. And he's like, I don't want to, we don't need to change it, but if this is going to continue here, we need to budget. You're not working, that whole thing. And I knew that I had bought some of those things just from this, like, oh, I need to fix what's happening to me. And I could fix that, I don't know, with a pill. And then from that day, they're all in the cupboard. I took them from that cupboard. I didn't buy anything else. I have my regular, I have a probiotic, I take magnesium, but nothing else. And so, I dropped everything, the whole needing to fix myself or manage my health, and just went to my body and said, okay, you know what you're doing, and I'm getting out of the way. So things that have like bothered me forever are
But
not
you
here.
also did a very interesting thing. Out of the blue, you just hopped on the plane and went to New Zealand.
Yeah, with 48. Well, there was a training that I wanted to go through and living with the tribe in Ahipari, New Zealand. 48 hours before the thing started, I signed up, I got ready, and I left. And that also was like a big deal. Also for my children. Like
Exactly.
I've gone before, but they
Yeah.
were like, what? You're leaving tomorrow? I'm like, yeah. So you'll be fine. You'll figure it out. Move my whole life. And mind you, this was like at the end of a year where I really had not had any energy to do anything. And then in 48 hours had to kind of bring this huge wave, but stay true to the fact that my capacity was very low.
And just
So
the flight was half a whole day, 20 something hours, right?
hours. It was a lot of flying, there was 3 flights and 36 hours door to door.
Wow.
And obviously what I'm learning and the body work that I've been doing it before anyway, right? But going in November reestablished my relationship to myself, to my body, to the body work that I do on myself and on others. But it's not like I would have ever said these things will heal. And also I'm open, the door's open. If they come back, they come back. I'm not like trying to be, but the relationship that I have with my body changed the health of my body. And I don't see this transition as something bad.
Yes, because when we are younger, we actually abuse our bodies.
Well, that's what we're taught to do.
Exactly. We push them. We sleep with people when we don't want to sleep because we don't know how to say no. And all of this is this crucial feminine, female energies and organs get avoided and ignored.
And then we're told at menopause, your libido is going to go to shit. And I'm not saying what I'm saying right now, that people don't have these symptoms. I'm not saying that they don't. But those symptoms are a sign of something else, right? About like not being in alignment with yourself. They're not, so you're not going to have your libido and you're not going to have this and that. I mean, I was tired, but the sex is better.
Yes.
Or you're going to lose blood flow to your parts. This was even told to me by a doctor. I now know that to be completely untrue. Is that happening to people? Yes. Is it a necessary part of menopause? No. You can be a juicy ass horny grandma. But nobody's talking about it. They're like, no, you're just going to dry it. So I say this was such an important piece for me because my grandmother, she had Alzheimer's. We didn't know it at that point, but by the time they took her in for a physical to get her into a special Alzheimer's hospital, her labia had sealed closed.
From the outside?
Like together. They just closed. Maybe she forgot she had that body part. I don't know, but I was like, I don't want that. That is not my future. I'm not taking that on. And the doctor's like, yeah, and then your labias are going to get really dry and thin and white. And I'm like, oh, I'm leaving this office. And it won't be true for me. It might be true for some.
Yeah, I interviewed John Gray a couple of weeks ago, and he said menopause is the time it's a test of how well you've been treating yourself. That's the time when you cannot lie anymore. Just like, when you're young, you could put makeup and look more gorgeous. When you're older, you put more makeup, you have all the wrinkles anyway. They see through. And menopause is also reveals what have you been doing.
It's definitely a reckoning.
Absolutely.
I feel like tension. I just want to acknowledge that like I don't like a man talking about menopause. I'm like, oh, okay, well, what he's saying I can agree with, but I don't feel okay about it. And just want to acknowledge that there's the radicalization that just flares. It's like, no.
And you see, I would rather personally have him tell me about it than a woman who is absolutely disconnected from her body.
Well, I don't think I'd be listening to anyone like that anyway.
But there are so many women. If you look at today, I wrote my book because there are no books talking about your relationship romantic relationship during the time of menopause. There are
Yeah.
many books talking about menopause, biological, health-wise, psychological. There are plenty of that. But how does this affect our relationship? It's like under the rug, another topic. So yeah, let's talk about that. What have you noticed?
In my relationship that if I have to teach, I have to say, look, I didn't have the words to teach you this before, so I'm going to have to teach you as I move through it. I teach it to my 23-year-old son. I tell my children, this is what is happening with me. This is where I need you to show up with more care. You know, and then I also have what I've learned from my teacher with the body work, which is the first 3 days of a woman's period, and my period can be every 3 weeks right now. Everyone else who's not on their period takes care of the household things. That during those days, it is her job to be with herself. That's her work, that's her job. And she is also an oracle at that time. And when you bleed, you renew the waters of your body every time. So you become renewed as you bleed. And when your blood time comes to an end, which you can also be a complete partner in, when your blood comes to an end, then you contain the waters. And then you have to have a different relationship with your body.
And now we are frozen. Frozen.
So in my relationships, my body's changing. If I'm not communicating how my body's changing, also like my sexual preference, like what works or what worked before is different now. I have to teach. I have to say, hey, this is what's happening. This is what's going on. And your relationship to your partner isn't the only one that changes. It's your relationship to everyone and everything. Everyone and everything. And I have been somebody who has changed rapidly and often. So in that sense, my people are very prepared for, you know, just how rapidly I'm changing all the time. But if you didn't allow yourself, or it wasn't a part of your process to be somebody who changes and transforms on a daily basis, that will change you. And if your partner is unwilling to accept that change and that shift, that's where there could be some rub. But you also can't demand that of somebody. You can just keep changing.
I believe one of the biggest blocks for women to do that is, oh my God, I need to acknowledge and accept that I'm aging.
Yeah, well, welcome to the radicalization.
Yeah, exactly. And
I'm not sexy anymore. People aren't looking at me on the street anymore. My skin is no longer collagenated like it was before. I have wrinkles, whatever it could be. My stretch
I'm
marks.
sagging. I don't get as many looks. I remember somebody told me, I think she was 55 and I was maybe 35, 40. I don't remember. She said, wait until you get older because you will become invisible.
Yeah, the horror stories, right?
Yes.
Instead, I'm like,
what do you mean? Like I'm going to develop a superpower to be invisible?
Yeah.
She said, I walk on the street and people don't turn. They used to turn, they used to open doors, they used to give me special treatment. And she said, I'm invisible now. And she said,
for her, for me, that was a relief.
Are you noticing you are becoming invisible?
Well, it's a relief to not be objectified.
Yeah, I see what
you mean. Be left to my own devices. To be able to look at myself through my own eyes. And to know that those that look at me as old and whatever, they have no fucking clue what would be possible. You know, like if a man is like, ew, ugh, and he's only dating young people because he's been conditioned by many things to only be attracted to that, he's missing a whole world of women.
Of course. And himself.
Yeah.
Because he's still living a dream. I know somebody who is probably 65 and he said 30 is too old for him. And he always just goes with a girl 25 to 30 and then they break up when she gets older and she always leaves with a ton of money. And I said, but you're just paying for this. And he said, well, I made a calculation. If I spend $60,000 a year on a woman, that's like having a like an assistant or something that she can help me around the house and do things. So I'm basically paying for the role, and I have sex, I have romance. So it's working for me.
Ouch.
The
For him
calculations
and
of
whoever he's.
aging men are very different than calculations of aging women.
Well, and then that's a whole issue again. Radicalization is coming in. Like that's not okay. It's not okay. He's refusing to grow up.
Yes.
He's not becoming an adult. He's not truly standing in his responsibility as a man.
His children are older than his girlfriends.
Yeah, well, I don't know him, but I mean, this is a super fallible and a big problem across the board for him and for those women that get involved with him.
Yeah.
There is, when we start looking at no longevity, like that, the whole, I mean, we could have a whole conversation about how we got here, but one of them is that there's no, if that youth is the goal, you start having a lot of problems in a culture. And when you don't have women of a certain age who are adults and have the maturity, the life reference, the time on task to say, hey, we should do it like this. And this is how we could make things better for everyone. And then you get where we are today.
Yeah.
Even if you devalue women over a certain age who become invisible, who become unemployed, like all these things, you begin to realize this is the radicalization. If you did not understand the dynamics of how the systems are set up, you will now.
But if a woman of a certain age shows up as a child, I'm not responsible, I don't know, this happened to me, why would anybody employ her? Why would anybody see her? So expecting from society to do something that you don't do to yourself.
Hold on, wait. Men do that all the time and they get rewarded. And but a woman does it. Now that's not okay.
I don't see men doing that and getting rewarded.
Oh, yes, they do.
Who gets rewarded for that?
Oh, men who have never been called up to be accountable for their behavior, and they get called up to be accountable for their behavior and they cry like they're the victims of something. It's often.
Okay, so then what are we doing? Obviously, right? In America, especially, I rarely see old people on the street. In Croatia, all the time. Old people are bicycling, walking with their sticks, sitting under the tree, eating popcorn, whatever they are doing. But here, it's very hard to see somebody over 70.
Yeah, well, you're told there's no life after 50.
Yes. And then there are homes
50.
for them away from where their life is happening.
And the moment you start to isolate, and that's a big, huge problem anyway, the moment you start to isolate is when psychosis really starts to happen for people. So that's a high level of isolation. And it just so happens that at 50, 60, 70, your friends we're not comfortable with death. So we are not comfortable with aging.
Yeah.
and
that's why we behave like children.
Yeah.
Don't adult, because if you adult, you need to be responsible for your life and for your emotions, for your actions.
And for the choices so I tell people, I don't have a choice. If somebody comes at me and is a dick, I don't take responsibility for that behavior. That's somebody else's crap. I get to choose how I relate to myself as it's happening. I get to choose how I relate to them. I get to choose every word. I get to choose my body language. Anything that has to do with me, I get to choose. Anything that has to do with other people, not really. I don't.
Very often common to that is, oh, I just become angry. It's not a choice. It just happens.
Well, then you're not paying attention.
Exactly. Right. There is a lot of that. Oops. Yes, when you are a child. Yes, when you still don't know.
The state of the world incubates adolescence. And so there's a lot of adults that don't grow into adulthood. Physically, yes. Hormonally, sure. But not mentally, emotionally, or from a perspective of as an adult, you do the right thing. And you do the right things, plural, even when you don't want to. I often tell my clients, be willing to be the only adult in the room without being condescending or an asshole. Because that's often what you're going to find yourself as.
Yeah.
The only adults standing in that room. It doesn't matter who's in the room, doctors, lawyers, coaches, it doesn't matter. But if you're in conversation, be willing to recognize that you're in a room full of people who do not even understand or know or consciously aware that they're not acting like adults.
Yeah, I look at political campaigns.
That we even allow. So this is a sign
Yes.
that the culture even doesn't push back and say, fuck this is not allowed on our TV. This is some stupid shit.
Yes.
That is the problem. So we're not a culture of adults. A culture of adults would be like, this is some ridiculous thing and it would not last.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean by policing. People would just be like, I'm not interested in this.
Exactly. Not, yeah, if you try to police it, you make it worse because you're not really helping people understand. But when you are taking responsibility for your words, for your action, like I always remember these Italian mafia movies. When the greatest mafioso wants to kill somebody, he just goes, no drama, do this, do that. He did this to me. No victim, just it's below my pay grade to deal with him. Whatever they do with him after, I don't know, probably smack his life off. But that energy of I'm so full of, I'm self-full, I'm not selfless, I'm self-full, and I'm able to just make a decision without being a child about it. And I think for us now, in our tigress time, we're making these jungly decisions.
Theoretically, we should all be adults by this age.
Exactly.
Theoretically.
But we were in a circus.
Yeah. And that's theoretical. And menopause will call you to come home to yourself and to stand in what really matters to you, whatever that is. You don't know, and you might not know what that is, but menopause will show you what matters to you. What are your actual values in life?
Yeah. I have a client, my client told me, oh, when I was working so hard all these years, like she was traveling a lot for business and just totally ignoring her children. She was never at home, right? She said, on the airports, I would buy books that I wanted to read, but I never have time to read them. And she said, I will read them all when I get, when I get retired. And she said, and now I'm not even interested in those topics. I threw 180 books because I don't care for these topics. I changed.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And the allowance that you are changing, if you haven't been changing, because that's the nature of being a woman who bleeds everyone. The nature is transformation constantly, constantly without fail. And if you haven't been aware or allowed to even be aware, or even knew you could be aware, that's a big one. Some people don't even know. Menopause will make it really clear to you. Hey,
change.
What are and you're changing, and responsibility stops being a bad word. It starts being true liberation. It should be that way anyway as an adult. The responsibility is a liberatory action. It is not a punishment.
Responsibility is liberatory action, not a punishment. So how would you use that in a relationship, with a romantic relationship? Let's say we have a common thing that happens with a woman of a certain age. It's I'm fit, I'm strong, I'm active, I have energy, but my man is all fat and lazy and he just wants to sit on a chair and watch TV and eat popcorns, and he can't keep up with me. Right? So that's the dynamic of superiority based on facts, so to say, facts, right?
Well, when I love someone and I'm real about it, either I'm going to allow them to be exactly as they are. I may encourage them, hey, I'm going to go do this. You want to come with me? I may do all these things. Or I be real honest with myself, like, I don't want this anymore, and I walk. I let go of the whole history that we've had. I take all the consequences, all the risks, probably all the benefits as well. But I don't sit in that place and complain about somebody else's unwillingness to change. I change.
For
and
me
I
to feel better. I need you to change so I feel better.
I change and I move and I do different. Casper and I are completely different people. Like, I mean, that was not a statement, but but we don't have like a whole lot in common other than who we are to each other, to our children, We don't have common hobbies. And there was a point where he was like, I don't know if we're compatible. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. And this feels really shitty, this conversation. But it was like really late. So I'm like, I'm going to go to bed. And I was kind of chewing on it. I'm like, why does this feel so shitty? And it was around like hobbies, and he wants somebody to do this hobby and that hobby. And so I thought about it and I was like, this is me setting myself free. This was my liberation. I was like, okay, if the words that he said yesterday are true, and he needs a woman who, let's say, rides motorcycles and likes to be a mechanic. Okay. Okay. If I go inside myself and that is true, what he said, he's speaking from his heart. This is really what he needs. Well, that's not going to be me. I'm not interested in being a mechanic.
I'm opting out.
Like, that's not going to be me. So then I take it further. If his words are sincere and he needs a woman who's a mechanic, well, I guess I have to let him go do that. Because I'm not going to be that for him so that he stays with me. If he's with me, he's with me, and I'm me. And I called him up and I said, you remember you said these exact words? He's like, yeah. And I said, if that is still true for you, then you need to go find that for yourself. I set myself free that day. I told him, I'm in this marriage 10,000%. I'm not going nowhere, even if you never do a hobby with me ever. But if you need that, then you need that. And I love you. And I'm going to be devastated. This is not the life that I want. It's not what I would choose. But I'd be damned if I try to be something for you so you stay with me. I will not do that. That's not who I am. And he's like, you're absolutely right. I shouldn't have said those things. That's because that's who he is. But when I said it, I was serious. Dead serious. Okay. I can handle and navigate my life I don't want to without you, but I can. But I will not shapeshift into something that you think I'm not. And if that makes you not love me, or makes you think you don't love me, or whatever, then you have to live with that, not me. And it's that place of like, I'm not going to complain that my husband has a bit of a belly after I've been with him for so long. This is something so fucking petty. And so what that tells me is that person's not being honest with themselves. There's got to be something else that isn't working. They need to get really honest with themselves about that thing, put that thing on the table, and let the cards fall where they fall. But stop complaining about somebody else who won't change the way you think they should be. That was the thing too. I was like, babe, if you're complaining and this is what you need, it's not here. I'm not here. I will not provide that thing for you. That's the freedom that every human being should be living.
Yeah, the upmanship. I'm better. He cannot keep up with me. It sets you up for separation, not for closeness and partnership.
And what's interesting,
what can we do together?
Yes, and not just that, but men. So we are going into we don't increase our testosterone. It's just that our other hormones go down. But testosterone starts to be more of an expression, including in our orgasms. So that's like a plus millions. And men go kind of the opposite. Now they don't decrease their testosterone, but their others start to increase. So they actually become more
softer.
Like they're going to want to turn towards more taking care of the home. And they might be really confused about that because nobody's talking about their transition, right?
Well, men's transition happens slowly, gradually.
Yes, but it's not as much of a shock.
Our estrogen during just a short window of 10 years or less, and they do it through 30 years.
But if they're paying attention, like my husband's paying attention, he's like, yeah, I realize that like I don't need to be sexually satisfied every day like I did 10 years ago. Like that's going with, but I'm not freaking out because I'm not less of a man. It's just this is how I'm transitioning. Right? It's not the thing that's on my mind 24/7. It's like 20 in the 7 or 20 in the day. It's not all 24 hours anymore. And that if you are talking about that in the relationship, about the transition that you're both going through, it can be a really bonding experience with each other.
Exactly.
It can be a really beautiful thing. Like, hey, I'm changing, you're changing. I'm able to gain more muscle now. You're struggling a little bit. We've changed positions. Like, this is kind of funny. But and not making it a binary thing, like this makes you less of a man or this makes you less of a woman.
And I'm going to conclude that you're not good enough for me and I'm
Right.
better. And this
Yeah.
is such a, but if the roles are shifted, when a man says, hey, you let yourself go, you gain 100 pounds, then, oh, you need to tolerate my weight, but I cannot tolerate yours. So we have a lot of responsibility conflicts that make
Well, we
our
have a lot of, I
relationships.
call them hidden prejudices. We have a lot of hidden prejudices that we don't evaluate or look at. And that's what you need to do as an adult. And those hidden prejudices, like what you just said, there's a lot of bias in that.
Okay.
And those are things we don't look at. And we need to be looking at them because we will separate and divide ourselves from people that we love dearly over something so stupid we don't even know we're thinking.
And it's not even matter, doesn't even matter on a real scale.
No,
Yeah.
no.
Just like you said that.
We'll flush like years and years of time together down the toilet for a bias that is like I said, when you're in menopause, there's shit that's going to come up. And it's a bias that you are refusing to look at. And you're using that against your spouse instead of like, what is this thing that all of a sudden I think I'm better? Or all of a sudden I think, what is that? And actually fucking question it. Like, why would I put that above
Yes.
what we have together?
Yes.
I'm not talking
Because
about.
we forgot to see what we have. Because we are more prone to, oh, I don't like the weather, I don't like this. We are prone to criticize things that we don't like. This is why I talk about gold digging. You gotta dig, find something good on your body. Look, when you're 20, oh, I have pimples. You're 25, oh, I have cellulite. You're 30, oh, I have this. You never just like, look at me. I'm so satisfied with how I look. It's always something, right? And men, like, oh, so I'm bald, but I have muscles or whatever, right? They'll find a way to be peaceful.
I'm going to make I believe that all to be conditioning. I don't think that's our innate humanity.
Can you repeat?
We are conditioned women to pick ourselves apart. We are conditioned to look at ourselves and life in a certain way. This is not how we are when we're clean and clear inside ourselves. We wouldn't even move. We would
Exactly.
not
This is
move
why
in
we
a.
need to address that.
Yeah,
To get to
yeah.
that clarity, it takes a certain age.
Not really, because I just made this post about an 8-year-old. There's a little girl. In my post, I talked about I didn't gender the child. It was a little girl, and she was asked by an interview, "What's the best thing about you?" And she goes, "There's nothing that's best about me. Everything about me is great."
Nice.
She has not been colonized, indoctrinated,
Conditioned.
conditioned into believing that she needs to like one up anything, even inside of herself. She's like, that is like the weirdest question. I'm not going, if I say this is the best thing, then I leave out all the other parts of me that are just as good. That is our innate position. And then this is the radicalization I talk, there's all this conditioning that comes in. And if you haven't dealt with or looked at or deconstructed your conditioning, it will come for you hot and heavy in menopause. And it will just, you could watch
And
it.
this is why for me too, being vegetarian whole life, shift. For her, she is great. Stay long enough in a system, like they made this video in a theater. They were kind of asking children to come and be the, like, fake audition for something. And children, I think under 10, they are, or maybe under 8, run like a girl, running. Kids around 13, 14 run like a girl.
Yep, exactly. It's conditioning.
Where does this conditioning happen to last your whole life?
It happens between the age of 0 and 7 and 7 and 14.
Until you get to this age and you are like, no more. I write in a book about my book about sometimes in this age you find hair growing on a weird place.
Sometimes, only
right?
sometimes.
I'm like, oh, I have mustache since when?
I always laugh. I'm like, I want to keep them because I would probably have like a little like beard, that came out to here. But the problem is when they're there, I cannot stop touching them. I'm like completely insane. I'm like, I wouldn't get anything done because I would be hyper fixated on the hairs, but I'm like, they're everywhere. But, yeah. And I don't know. It's like
guess what else we grow? We grow a couple of extra sets of middle fingers.
I like that one.
right?
Yes. But
And this is why you run like a girl your whole life until you grow another middle finger. It's like, no, no, no.
yeah.
Don't run that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Or like people can't, they can't, somebody say, well, you know, everybody experiences this or everybody. And I'm like, no, I don't. I'm like, you not include me in no we or people, please. Like, you know, just weird shit you don't even think you're going to be clear about. You are. You're like, don't
That's a
include me.
middle finger.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
exactly. And
with middle finger for your opinion, I have plenty middle fingers. No problem. I'll give them all.
no, Quinn or Noah drew a cartoon for Rowan's birthday. So these are two of my children. Rowan just turned 19 and Noah's almost 24. But his whole life he's drawn these stick figure comics.
Uh-huh.
And this stick figure comic is like Rowan in the middle, and then all of us are like defending her from like depression and feelings of insecurity. And each person, you know, like Quinn is this and I'm that, and and I'm like the hero that's defending her against failure. But my superpower is shooting middle fingers.
There you go.
And this was a week ago. So
perfect timing, right?
everybody's looking at me like, is mom shooting middle fingers?
And it would be the waste of this gift that we keep all the middle fingers to ourselves.
Well, it's not just that.
Give them generously.
Yeah. And sadly, in our culture, we don't give ourselves permission to be this way until now, but we have it in us to be this way our entire lives.
Our entire life.
Our entire lives. And our daughters have it. Yeah.
Do you know the true story of a beautiful white tigress named Mohini? She was given as a gift from, I don't know, some president of whatever country to Eisenhower. So they kept her in DC Zoo.
Okay.
In the cage, let's say the cage, like this big, and she's going left, right, all day long for years. And then all this, you know, friendly animal societies, whatever, they created a better place for her. 2-3 acres of land with a pond and the trees and everything that she can be happy. And even TV came to watch what happened. Exactly. She found a corner and did the same thing. And that conditioning, right? That's why I said,
and the thing is, it's in everyone. That's why I call this the radicalization, because you can start to be really apparent. You're blind to it.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, yep. And the program starts to fall away. Some people will cling to that. I don't judge them. Some people, you know, like there's people, especially today with where we are, there are women who have a child between 40 and 45. And all the things that it is to be a new mom and all the hormonal things that is. And then they go into menopause and they have a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
And that's 2 ginormous initiatory phases in a woman's life happening simultaneously.
And it happens a lot today. And then you don't know what's going on with you. And of course, you're crazy. You need this pill. You need that pill. And then you start gaining weight from all these pills and hormonal disbalance.
Well, the thing is, gaining weight is not wrong.
I'm not talking about few pounds.
No. Even if we gain, sorry, I have to interject here. Even if we start to look like this,
I love this figure. But
so
I'm not talking about wrongness. I'm talking about once you start, because the pills are blocking the flow, then it's your fault.
Right. Yes. So sorry.
I'm going somewhere, right, with that. Then you are just totally overpowered by taking care of your child, by working, by hormonally being everywhere, and now it's all your fault.
Right.
And how do we have a healthy, if you have a
There's so many times people have come to me like couples, and I'm like, how old are you? Mm-hmm. We start talking about this menopause and this perimenopause, and their light bulbs go off. And I'm like, husband, if you really care, go educate yourself on menopause. Just go fucking Google shit. Go read as much as you can. find stuff that's, not just crap, because there's crap out there.
Oh, there is plenty opposing opinions. Just
So,
real.
and then, or even before that, start paying attention to your wife.
Mhm.
Start noticing when she starts to, what her cycle looks like, even if it's messed up right now. Pay attention to her and know that these things that she's going through hormonally, you cannot relate to.
Never.
So you need to listen to her and believe her about her experience. And it will change.
It needs to be not take advantage of that.
I have
I
yet to
had the
see
two
that.
clients who told me, "Oh, I just lied to him that I'm pregnant. I lied about just to get a reaction."
That's not the same as like I'm going through menopause. I think that would be very
Okay,
difficult.
that's different. But if you're taking something that men cannot understand,
Yeah.
and you're trying to manipulate with that, you're not creating partnership. You're creating division.
All right, this is like, I don't work with people who would even go that direction. So it was a little bit out. Like, there's no way that this would be something I would tolerate in a relationship with myself or anyone else.
Exactly, but people do all kinds of things. If
Sure.
you feel weak to not be able to be heard, you're gonna lie, you're gonna scream. You know the little story of the
If a husband is leaning in and he's truly caring and he's truly listening, and a woman does that,
oh, that's
this is so. If I'm talking to a pair of people and I'm asking the husband to lean in, I'm going off the basis that she's going to also be leaning in, and they're both going to be taking it serious, taking it honestly and earnestly and with a lot of care. I would not preface it with like, don't manipulate with this. I wouldn't. So that's kind of what I mean. I was like a little bit confused. If you're in a relationship with anybody who is going to try to manipulate you, you want to address that as quick as you can and decide if you want to stay with them or not.
Oh, much earlier, yes. Yeah.
But and the thing too, like that I know who I am. So in relationship to other people, that can be very disconcerting to them. And I will, especially when it comes to someone speaking about their spouse or speaking about their children in ways that hurt, I point it out immediately and tell them it's not acceptable. It's not something I will tolerate in my environment or the people around me without saying something. Now, I'm not horrible, mean. I'm not condescending. I don't call people names. I'm not disrespectful.
Yeah.
But I will tell them, you can't talk about your 10-year-old that way.
Yeah.
You cannot want to be in a relationship with somebody you're willing to talk like that about, either to their face or behind if they were together or if it's behind their back.
But look, the fact is that it happens.
Sure.
I spoke in my research for my book. I spoke with somebody who is retired FBI undercover agent whose job was to pretend to be, how we call it, hitman. Guess who orders the most services from a hitman?
Women.
Menopausal women.
Yeah, makes sense. Radicalization.
What kind of death they order? Slow suffering. Don't just hit him with a gun in the back of his head. Make him suffer.
So now, if you want to go in this conversation, we have to get context. Women in the society, the patriarchal societies that we are working in, have been horrifically treated by their husbands. And at menopause, I'm not saying it's right at all by any stretch of the fucking imagination. At menopause, they realized that treatment wasn't worth their life.
Exactly. Yes.
They would go choose
I
that.
don't want to jump through hoops. Exactly. Fire hoops.
They have that. Yes. Yeah. But you can't then. The thing is, it's so easy that our society goes, the women are crazy. The women have lost their mind without taking into context what might have happened to that woman her entire life up until that point at the hands of men.
And how society is designed that if you are a widow, oh, you get all the love and attention and calmness and all the money. You don't have to part your children. You don't have to struggle with anything. But if you go through divorce, you may be crushed. According to the research, after the divorce at 40 plus, most women are worse off by far than they were before. So if you feel like you're absolutely trapped, right?
Well, not just that. I've read research that the happiest demographic of women is women 55 and older, single women.
Really? I didn't read that. I was doing this research. I didn't read that. because I was just to talk to a lady. Her name is on YouTube. She goes under, I think, elderly gal, and she talks about the symptom. 12% of American population over 50 are considered adult orphans, how they literally don't have anyone. Even children that they raised don't talk to them or whatever. And there is this aloneness, this extreme aloneness about. So I believe that just like with menopause, there are many different perspectives. Do this, do that. This is what's happening. This is what, because we don't have enough data. We don't even have 100 years of data on this.
This is, well, let's go back even further. We had a massive amount of knowledge about women's health, about human health, until about 500 years ago, or right? So
From each other, but when the big
Yes, no.
pharma came,
Yes.
yes.
So in the modern world, that's true.
Mhm.
But it's because it was stolen, pillaged, oppressed, taken away.
And dissed.
Yeah.
And
But
it's a
that
famous
knowledge,
fails.
that knowledge is still intact in some places. And we know how to be with ourselves. And so when I'm looking at something, I read a lot of data. I read a shit ton of articles and peer-reviewed stuff and all of those things. And I always look at them like, this is coming through the lens of what we're living today. This is not coming through the lens of who we are as humanity. Right? It has all of that in there. And if a doctor, a book, is not ultimately pointing you to yourself, saying trust yourself the most. I tell people all the time, listen, this is what I'm seeing. This is what it is. If it's trash for you, throw it in the trash. Yeah. And this is what my experience is. I have no idea what it's going to be for you. And so if something isn't pointing you back towards yourself, then I don't give it much of my, if somebody's like, I'm an expert on all women's bodies, I'm like, goodbye. We're good. I'm done with this conversation, right? Or I know everything. When people try to usurp that they know about me more than I know about myself, I also will. That's a walk for me. It's like, that's really strange, especially if we just met.
And the funny thing is, whatever you know about you may change.
Yes.
And be ready and willing to shift with that.
Yeah, but that's because I know myself, I will shift. It's a fact. Exactly. I will shift.
And so you will accept it the way it is now. And like, I was completely fine being vegetarian. Yeah. I was absolutely fine. And then the transition, like, wait a minute, what's happening? But the acceptance of the happening went with it. And now my husband is like, you haven't had salad in 2 months. I'm like, yeah, this is just the beginning.
One thing that I did do was I don't drink at all, but I really started to like appreciate like a beer every once in a while. And my whole family's like,
what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not for the alcohol, it's the taste, which before I was like, this is disgusting.
Yeah, to me also beer is disgusting. I'm gonna try now to see, maybe I like it now.
I'm very bougie about it. So, it's not just like any beer. It has to be like a very particular kind of beer. Yeah, I mean, you're coming, I'll be able to give it to you. But it's like,
I'll try.
Yeah, but it's like, it's not for the alcohol. It was like, I need the hops or whatever the fuck is in it. And I can feel that. It's like this pull, but it's not like every night. It's not even once a week. But it's still the idea of mom holding a beer and sipping out of a beer, like just blows everybody's mind.
Wow. You see, this is amazing what acceptance does.
Well, and on the other side of that, Casper started to smoke cigars. Once again, 3 months. And everybody's going like, what the hell? Right. So that you can, this thing is that as human beings, we are not static. We never were. We are organic chaos. We're completely feral. And all the conditioning comes on top and says that don't do this and don't do that and don't do this and don't do that. But that feralness inside is there. And had this white tiger had somebody with them to help rehabilitate and remind them what it looked like to be a tiger, she might have had a chance out of that. Maybe it's not a guarantee, but it's a possibility.
But you see, when humans mess with something that is wild and natural, it will be altered, right? And then, as you said, another tiger coming there back to wild and natural, it re-alters. This is why I always talk in my book, we need to have a tigress tribe. a group of friends, even like you and I are, we are oceans apart, but we are friends. And I know if I need a tigress, Shanti, hello, right, can reach to somebody. And I ask elderlies from Croatia to tell me when I was doing the research for the book about their experiences of all this, age shifting. And they said, no, just a little hot flashes, a little this, nothing really. It was easy. Nobody said there were problems. And as I start analyzing, it's because they had each other. They did it together with aunties and neighbors, and it was just kind of what we do together. That
Yeah.
no men don't need to know. This is not stories for them. This is our stuff.
Mhm.
Having our tribe is crucially important.
Well, and that's again the radicalization. You might have been able to this point do everything on your own by yourself in the illusionary world that we live in. And then all of a sudden it's like, listen, you're gonna need help and you're gonna need support and you're gonna need network. And it's like, what? Okay. And I'm in the process of locally of building that and feeling how awkward. I'm like, oh, okay, I feel awkward, even though I know what it is and I know what I'm looking for. And I can create it online very quickly, but actually in my own life where there's actual people, it's an awkward. It's an awkward because
Now,
I don't, well, and because I don't, there's no blueprint. I don't have like a XYZ follow da da da. It's a creationary process.
yeah. And you hit with somebody and you hit it well and you connect and then you disconnect and it's just a magical thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Shanti, so much for this. Speaking of tribing, how can somebody connect to you?
Facebook's the fastest way. And I don't know. I am in transition like everyone else. I'm working a lot more offline
Uh-huh.
with bodies on my table. And I really love that work. But if you want to come and see what I write about, which is just about myself, be ready for that.
Oh, but it's amazing. I will always remember what you wrote one time on Facebook. You said, sometimes the most radical thing you can do is to take a nap.
Radicalization. Yeah, exactly.
And this was maybe 10 years ago or more. But I will never forget that. Guess what? I took a nap after I read that.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
don't dare slow down or rest or stop for a minute is a radical
easy
idea.
tigress. That's why my book is easy tigress.
Yeah.
Easy, easy.
Yeah. Because the thing of that energy that boils up, this thing that, people call hot flashes sometimes, but the energy that boils up right now is a generating energy, but you're not used to that. So you have to slow down to learn to be with that.
Exactly.
And then one of my doctors she's an OBGYN, but she was a midwife in South America, where there's culture that's still intact around menopause. And she said the older women are always those who have two lives. They had their life before menopause and they have their life after, where they do things that they create projects and companies and things that are like that they would never have even thought about prior to, because as your brain replumps, so during menopause, your brain kind of gets a bit sticky and then it starts to replump after. And as that replump happens, you come online in a very, very different way for yourself. And if you don't slow down, you won't even notice.
Mm.
So you have to slow down radically.
Have to slow down. This my whole book. The title is How to Slow Down.
And if you can't quit your job, because that maybe, well, no, I can't do that, then you have to find a way internally to be so kind and caring and gentle with yourself as you have to continue to do the things you have to do, that you do not take the pressure inside off and just keep doing what you're doing, but remove the pressure.
Mm-hmm. And simple thing to do that. Very simple. Every once in a while through the day, just whatever you're doing, just close your eyes
Mhm.
and then open them. Maybe 2 seconds.
Yeah.
It's a reminder. Like you don't have to sit on the bathroom with your phone. Close your eyes.
Yeah.
Like when you're cooking, you're mixing whatever, close your eyes, open your eyes. That's a little bit, I'm gathering my energy. We are gatherers,
Yeah.
woman, right? Hunter gatherer, gather that energy.
Yeah.
And it's
But
always has to be gentle
the
and
thing
soft.
about that is that energy it's sustaining and it's regenerating. But you're not used to that regenerative energy because you bleed every month. But as you stop bleeding, that energy changes and it starts becoming regenerative. And if you don't slow down a little bit, you won't even notice the shift and you won't be able to take advantage of it. No judgment.
It's a gift being given. Enjoy.
Well, I won't tell somebody to enjoy it. Have whatever experience you're having.
Well,
It
but
doesn't,
okay. But when you
yeah.
slow down, you will enjoy it more than if you push through it.
Well, I don't know. I think that I can't say that for anybody. I know for myself, it's like, I'm so geeked out and curious about my own experience that this is interesting for me, even when it's shitty. It's
Yes.
been
Yes.
I'm fascinated by the process of being who I am and what's happening in my experience.
Yeah.
But I could never say, this is what other people feel, or this is how other people should do something, other than taking responsibility and being an adult. I'll tell you all day long how to do that.
I don't want to do that. That's the last thing I want to do.
Have fun with that. Again, so I go, okay, how's it working out for you?
Oh gosh. Well, Shanti, thank you so much for this. I appreciate your insights. And Facebook is the contact for you, beingshanti.com. Talk soon, baby. Bye.